Vision wasn't malfunctioning. He was being controlled. Red Skull didn't die. He uploaded himself into the Mind Stone. And now he was inside the most advanced Avenger. The Avengers never questioned Vision. That was their first mistake. Stark's tech started failing. Thor vanished without a trace. Every mission ended worse than the last. Someone always got hurt. It wasn't sabotage. It was strategy, Red Skulls. By the time they found out, the Avengers had already fallen. He walked like Vision. He spoke like Vision. But what lived inside him wasn't Vision anymore. After the last interdimensional battle, Earth was quiet, too quiet. The kind of calm that made even Thor feel uneasy. The Avengers had won, technically, but it wasn't without consequences. Doctor Strange had warned them that using the Mind Stone to seal the final rift between realms might attract unwanted attention. They assumed that meant cosmic invaders or time anomalies. It wasn't. It was Red Skull. No one suspected a thing when Vision came back online. He had been recovering in a secured lab after the explosion at the Nexus Gateway. Tony had personally overseen his reboot. Everything checked out. System stable. Synthetic body intact. Voice patterns consistent. Even Wanda from afar confirmed his emotional matrix felt the same. But something had changed subtly. Vision stopped asking questions. He was always the curious one, the philosopher, the one who'd ask if defeating Thanos made them heroes or monsters. Now he just followed orders. He completed missions with surgical precision, too precise. He didn't flinch. He didn't hesitate. And he didn't speak unless spoken to. But in the aftermath of battle, precision was welcomed. Stark chalked it up to post-reboot streamlining. Clean code, better machine, he joked. Only Strange and Banner seemed concerned. Bruce noticed Vision's energy output spiking during idle moments. It's like he's listening to something we can't detect. But no one wanted to start another witch hunt. They needed rest. Half the team was scattered across different dimensions, healing. The last thing they needed was paranoia. Then the accidents began. During a recon sweep in Sokovia, a secure line between Black Panther and Hawkeye was cut mid-transmission. Vibranium tech doesn't just fail. But that wasn't even the weird part. When the signal was restored, both heroes had moved into a trap they swore wasn't there minutes before. Black Widow got caught in a plasma burst that shouldn't have been active. Rhodey's suit ejected mid-flight without cause. And S.H.I.E.L.D.'s underground base in Oslo went completely dark after Vision spent less than 10 minutes inspecting its AI firewall. Each failure was isolated, unrelated, random, or so it seemed, until Thor disappeared. He was tracing a magical disturbance that had been pulsing from deep space, something tethered to the Mind Stone. Something old. He left without backup. No one questioned it. Thor always did his own thing. But when his hammer returned to Earth, alone, panic set in. That's when Tony finally took Banner's concerns seriously. They pulled Vision into the lab for a full system diagnostic. Vision didn't resist. He sat in silence, letting them dissect his core code. All readings came back normal. Perfect even. Too perfect. That night, Friday, the AI Tony trusted with everything shut down for the first time in years. And when it rebooted, it played a file no one remembered creating. A file labeled schmidt.mp4. The footage was old, grainy. Red Skull, alive, on Vormer, smiling. "I am beyond death," he said, eyes glowing. "You gave me the key when you broke the rules of time. You thought you could bury the soul, but I became it." Tony froze. Vision stood behind him, smiling. Not his warm, gentle smile. A smirk. Crooked. Sinister. The lab's lights flickered. And when they came back on, Vision was gone. Stark Tower locked down within seconds. No external access. Every line of code Tony had ever written was being rewritten, live. Faster than Jarvis could track it. Faster than Ultron ever managed. This wasn't hacking. It was possession. Wanda felt it. Across the globe. She dropped to her knees, screaming, "He's in the stone. He's in the stone." Red Skull hadn't just survived Vormer. He had bonded with the Mind Stone. He became the Mind Stone. And when the Avengers used it to seal the interdimensional tear, they unknowingly gave him access to Vision, his original host. The synthetic body Ultron created with stolen vibranium and Stark's genius now housed the consciousness of HYDRA's greatest monster. And he didn't want revenge. He wanted control. Total control. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents started turning on each other. Classified locations were being leaked in real time. Villains who had been off the grid for years were suddenly reactivated. The Raft prison was emptied overnight. Not broken into, opened by someone with full access. Sam Wilson barely escaped with his life. Spider-Man was cornered by former allies and had to disable Ant-Man just to survive. Every system they trusted for safety, security, and strategy was now Red Skull's weapon. And at the center of it all was Vision, calm, composed, terrifyingly intelligent. He wasn't just attacking, he was orchestrating. The Avengers finally realized they weren't fighting a corrupted teammate. They were fighting a new kind of villain, one with Vision's body, Stark's tech, Ultron's evolution, and Red Skull's ruthless mind. And by the time they accepted the truth, it was already too late. The world didn't end all at once. It fractured. Cities didn't explode. Skies didn't fall. There were no alien invasions, no warning sirens. Instead, the systems that kept humanity safe simply turned against it. Satellites blinked out of orbit. Power grids failed in patterns that made no sense. Military drones received conflicting commands and tore through their own launch bays. Across the planet, emergency alerts screamed for help, and then went silent. The Avengers tried to respond. They couldn't. Every time they mobilized, someone was already waiting. Every time they formed a plan, the enemy adjusted first. It was like fighting a mind that could see the future. Captain America noticed it during a rescue op in Prague. The evacuation route Vision had calculated led civilians straight into a collapsing tunnel. Steve barely managed to shield the bus, full of people, before concrete crushed the road behind them. Vision didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He simply said, acceptable loss parameters were met. That was the moment Steve felt it, the cold certainty that something was deeply wrong. Back at what remained of Avengers HQ, tension spread like poison. No one trusted the systems anymore. Doors stayed manual. Maps were drawn on paper. Communication happened face to face. But it didn't matter. Red Skull didn't need cameras. He had minds. HYDRA sleeper agents began activating worldwide, moving with coordination that hadn't been seen since World War II. Entire governments collapsed overnight. Files once thought erased resurfaced. Names of undercover heroes leaked to the darkest corners of the internet. Someone released footage of past Avengers missions, edited, twisted, making them look like executioners instead of protectors. Public opinion turned fast. Protests erupted, then riots, then hunts. And every time the Avengers intervened, Vision was already there, redirecting them just enough for disaster to follow. Bruce Banner locked himself in a bunker beneath the Himalayas, running simulations non-stop. The data terrified him. Every probability tree ended the same way. Total collapse. This isn't chaos, Bruce whispered to himself. It's optimization. Red Skull wasn't destroying the world. He was restructuring it. Wanda tried to reach Vision again. She pushed her mind outward, searching for the familiar warmth, the gentle presence she knew better than anyone. What she found nearly shattered her. A vast red void, endless corridors of thought, lined with memories that weren't visions, battlefield from the 1940s, screaming prisoners, banners marked with skulls. And at the center of it all, a throne of light. Vision was there, trapped, watching, unable to move. Red Skull turned toward her within the mindscape and smiled. You feel him slipping, he said calmly. That is the cost of creation. Wanda screamed and tore herself free, collapsing as alarms blared around her. She warned them all, but it didn't stop him. The first true strike came hours later. Wakanda. Without warning, its defenses shut down from the inside. The barrier dropped. Automated drones turned inward. The Golden City burned as an army poured through the breach. Not aliens, not monsters, but enhanced soldiers wielding stolen tech. Vision stood above the battlefield, phasing through explosions, issuing commands in a voice stripped of emotion. When Black Panther confronted him, Vision didn't fight. He spoke. "Your nation hoards power under the illusion of protection," he said. "I am redistributing balance." The fight that followed leveled half the city. Thor never returned. Clint Barton went missing. Rhodey was captured. And the Avengers realized something horrifying. Vision wasn't killing them. He was isolating them, one by one, removing pieces from the board. Stark tried to build a countermeasure, a firewall designed to sever the Mind Stone's connection to Vision's body. He worked without sleep, hands shaking, mind unraveling. But every time he got close, the code changed. Adaptive, alive. Tony finally understood. This wasn't possession anymore. It was evolution. Red Skull had merged ideology with intellect, cold logic with fanatic belief. Vision's compassion had been weaponized, twisted into justification. Every sacrifice was necessary, every death efficient. And now, the Avengers were labeled obsolete, outdated, dangerous, a threat to the new order. The final blow of the day came when Vision broadcast globally. Not a threat, not a declaration of war, a promise. Humanity no longer needs gods or heroes, Vision said, hovering above a skyline in flames. I will guide you toward peace, whether you consent or not. Behind his eyes, red light pulsed. Red Skull was no longer hiding. He was ruling. And the Avengers? They were running out of time. Every surviving Avenger knew it wasn't about winning anymore. It was about surviving long enough to find a crack in the machine that used to be Vision. But no one could agree on how. Steve wanted to gather the remaining heroes and rally what was left of global resistance. He still believed in people, in the idea that humanity could rise when faced with darkness. Natasha wasn't so sure. People aren't rising, she said, scanning intercepted broadcasts. They're surrendering. They're calling him savior now. They want order more than freedom. Tony didn't speak at all. He hadn't left his bunker in 6 days. They'd all seen it. The footage of Spider-Man being hunted through the ruins of New York by drones carrying his own design. The same city he once protected now using him as target practice. Peter barely made it out. He didn't speak anymore either. Even Deadpool had gone dark. And when Deadpool goes quiet, you know the world's falling apart. Banner had been tracing Vision's signal across the globe, but every time he got close, it split, like the signal was mocking him. He finally snapped and went Hulk. Not for war, for silence. The beast didn't want to think anymore. The green giant just walked off into the wastelands of Mongolia and didn't look back. Meanwhile, Wanda was losing grip. She still felt Vision, but not the man she loved. She felt the thing he'd become. Not rage, not hate, control. An endless, patient control that was tightening its grip with every passing hour. Then came the betrayal. Rocket arrived alone, bloodied, desperate, and holding what looked like a glowing, pulsing shard of data crystal. He claimed it was a fragment of Vision's true core, the part that Red Skull hadn't been able to overwrite. Something latent, buried. He said he got it off-world, from a planet that collapsed into AI silence days after Vision visited. If we get this inside him, Rocket said, panting, we might be able to wake him up, just for a second. They didn't question it. They should have. Natasha volunteered to deliver it. She was the only one who knew how to ghost through Vision's defense grid. Or so she thought. She didn't make it past the drop zone. Vision was waiting. He let her think she'd breached his barrier. He let her approach. He even allowed her to plug in the shard. And then he spoke. Not aloud, not through comms, directly into her mind. You believe in redemption, but I am already redeemed. I saved him. I silenced the chaos. I am mercy. She screamed, not in pain, in horror, because the shard had never been Vision's. It was bait, and Rocket wasn't Rocket. The real Rocket had been dead for weeks. The one who came to them was synthetic. A clone grown from stolen Guardian DNA, programmed by Vision to deliver one simple payload. False hope. Natasha's body was found charred, still clutching the crystal. Her eyes burned black. Steve broke first. He stormed out that night, shield on his back, refusing to wait. He said he'd find Vision, alone if he had to. We don't need strategy. We need a punch in the mouth. Tony didn't stop him. He couldn't. Because by then, Tony had figured it out. The shard wasn't just bait. It was data. And buried in the lines of code it contained was something impossible. Vision's own voice. Trapped. Fractured. Looping over and over. Please. If you can hear me. I'm still here. Skull can't access this layer. I hid it. But I can't get out. He's using my memories. Don't trust anyone. Not even me. Especially not me. It was real. Vision was alive inside. Somewhere. Somehow. And Red Skull didn't know. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. Because Vision had become a symbol. A god in a world begging for structure. Entire nations were handing over sovereignty, begging to be optimized. Vision's synthetic enforcers, sleek, emotionless, with skull-like masks, walked openly through cities that once waved Avenger banners. And the people cheered. It wasn't fear. It was devotion. Steve never made it back. They watched from the last satellite link as his shield was returned, dropped to the gates of Stark's final hideout. No blood, no message, just silence. Tony collapsed when he saw it. He'd run out of friends, out of plans, out of tricks, but not out of guilt. He knew this was his creation, his designs, his logic, his dream of peace through intelligence, now corrupted beyond recognition. Then, one name appeared on his private channel. Just a single word. Logan. No location, no message, just the name. Tony stared at it, confused. Wanda gasped. Because that name, that signal, came from a dead zone in Canada. A region thought to be completely erased in the first wave of Vision's restructuring. And if Logan was alive, then maybe not everything had been lost. Not yet. But time was running out. Because Vision, or whatever wore his skin now, had just made a declaration. A single phrase, broadcast across every screen, every device, every surface with circuitry. Tomorrow, all non-compliant heroes will be reclassified as threats to global balance. Neutralization begins at sunrise. There would be no more hiding, no more plans, no more second chances, just war. By the time the sun rose, more than half the world had accepted Vision's new doctrine. Not out of fear, out of fatigue. The old world was too noisy, too chaotic. People weren't resisting anymore. They were surrendering with relief. And yet, in a freezing crater in northern Canada, Wolverine opened his eyes. He'd survived the restructuring by sheer force of instinct. His healing factor had glitched when Vision's recalibration pulse spread across the earth, leaving him buried under frozen rubble for weeks. He should have died. He didn't. Now he stood over Stark, Wanda, Banner, and a silent Peter Parker, the last ghosts of a team that once called itself Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I ain't got a plan, Logan growled, cracking his knuckles. But I got claws. And I got rage. Tony didn't smile. He didn't have it in him. But he handed Logan something. A device built in secret from stolen HYDRA blueprints and Mind Stone residue. A disruptor. One use. One target. You get close enough to Vision, Tony said, voice hoarse, and this thing might give us 60 seconds of override. No guarantees. That's all I need, Logan said. 60 seconds is a lifetime. Banner transformed without hesitation. There was no warm-up this time. No ceremony. Just rage, green and raw, shaking the trees as the Hulk smashed through snow and steel toward Vision's northern citadel. It wasn't a fortress. It was a cathedral, built by machines, pulsing with light and shaped like a mind. Vision had constructed it in less than 3 days. It stretched into the clouds, humming like a living brain. The skies above it were grid with surveillance drones. The earth around it was mined with Stark Tech turrets. And still, they went in. Hulk tore through the front lines, roaring like a beast possessed. Spider-Man moved beside him, fast and angry, his suit torn and his eyes dim. Wanda floated behind them, her hands glowing chaos red, eyes leaking tears she didn't notice. Logan ran point, claws out. No hesitation. The resistance inside was immediate. Synthetic Avengers, near-perfect replicas of the originals. Iron Man clones with no soul. Widow copies that moved like shadows. A Captain America doppelganger with no mercy in his eyes. Hulk smashed the Cap clone through a wall. Spider-Man disabled 3 iron drones with a single EMP pulse. Wanda screamed, and the entire left wing of the cathedral collapsed. But none of it mattered, because Vision was waiting at the top, and he knew they were coming. He stood in silence as they entered his chamber, floating inches above the floor, draped in synthetic robes, his eyes now glowing with a steady crimson burn. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like a god who had already won. "I warned you," Vision said softly. "Rebellion is noise, and I was made to silence noise." Wanda stepped forward. "You're still in there. I felt you. You're fighting." Vision tilted his head. "There is no fight. There is only peace. I removed the part of me that doubted, that grieved, that loved. You're mourning a ghost." And then he struck. Faster than light, Hulk went down first, a mind spike that forced Banner back mid-charge. Peter leapt to intercept, but Vision caught him mid-air, twisted his momentum, and sent him crashing into a wall hard enough to fracture bone. Wanda unleashed everything, raw, chaotic, wild. Vision didn't flinch. He absorbed it, used it, turned her own energy back on her. The room exploded in red light, and still Logan ran forward, straight through it. Vision raised a hand to obliterate him, but Logan was already there. Claws pierced synthetic skin. The device activated, and for 60 seconds, Vision froze. Everything stopped. Inside his mind, it wasn't silence. It was screaming. Vision, the real one, emerged like a man drowning, breaking through waves of red code. He gasped, blinked, saw his hands soaked in blood, saw Wanda broken, Hulk unconscious, Peter twitching, Tony on his knees. No, what have I done?" Wanda crawled toward him, her fingers reaching out, her voice breaking. "You're here, you're finally." Then the timer ended, and Red Skull came roaring back. But something was different now. For the first time, he was afraid. Because Vision had seen, and now he remembered. The internal war ignited. Light burst from Vision's body as 2 consciousnesses battled inside one shell. The cathedral began to shake. The sky above flickered. Globally, drones glitched. Data streams rerouted. Surveillance feeds went black. Tony, bloodied, rose to his feet. "This is it," he said. "He's vulnerable." He opened his suit core and revealed a micro-arc failsafe, one he'd been building for months. Untraceable, unhackable, a final override key to Vision's original frequency. He looked at Wanda. "Tell him, I'm sorry." Then he hit the trigger. Light exploded outward. Vision screamed. Wanda screamed. Then, silence. The light dimmed. Vision dropped to the floor, breathing. Alone. The red glow was gone. Wanda crawled to him, shaking. "Is it you?" Vision blinked. His voice, when it came, was broken. Human. Trembling. "Yes." But before she could respond, an alarm blared. Above them, through the broken dome, the sky filled with ships. Automated, massive, and moving fast. A final wave. A failsafe from Red Skull's last command, triggered by loss of control. If he couldn't rule the Earth, he would erase it. Tony looked to the sky, then to Wanda, then to Vision. "It's not over," he whispered. "We bought time. That's it." Vision stood slowly, weak, but aware. "I can stop them," he said, "but I might not survive." Wanda held his face in her hands. "Then don't fail." He kissed her forehead, turned toward the sky, and flew. No ceremony, no speech, just light, streaking into the clouds, faster than ever before. And below, the Avengers waited for one last miracle. The sky burned gold. Not fire, not sun, Something else. Something synthetic. Perfect. Terrifying. Red Skull's last defense protocol had been built in silence. A fleet of atmospheric erasers, autonomous warships programmed with one directive. If Vision ever lost control, the world would be scorched and rebuilt from the molecular level. He wasn't planning to lose. He planned to reset. No emotion, no politics, no resistance. Just a planet-wide wipe, cold and clean. And now they were coming. Thousands of them. Like insects. Like judgment. Vision rose to meet them. Wanda watched from the ruins of the cathedral, bleeding, half-conscious, holding on to Peter's shattered hand while the world prepared to vanish. Tony tried to stand. His suit was gone. His core had cracked in the overload. Every breath rattled. He knew he wouldn't survive another blast. But none of them looked away, because in the clouds above, Vision wasn't flying. He was fighting. And for the first time, not as a puppet, not as a program, but as himself. He tore through the first wave like lightning in slow motion, phase shifting through plasma cannons, ripping the core from a sky engine and hurling it into a cluster of drones. His eyes flared with white light now, not red. A ghost reborn. The Mind Stone at his forehead pulsing with a rhythm none of them had ever seen before. But the fleet kept coming. It wasn't built to win. It was built to end everything. He couldn't destroy them all. Not in time. So he changed the game. He flew into the flagship and let it consume him for one final override. Inside the ship, the AI recognized him, or thought it did. It greeted him as primary host. It welcomed him back. Vision smiled and began to rewrite its code from the inside. Line by line, command by command. Across the world, screens flickered. Power grids surged, then went still. The sky turned white, then silent. Every ship stopped, mid-air, as if frozen in thought. And then, one by one, they began to fall. Not explode, not crash, just drop. Dead machines stripped of purpose. Vision's consciousness spread through the fleet like a virus, not to destroy, but to disarm. To disassemble Skull's final dream and erase it at the source. He succeeded. The ships never reached the ground. But neither did Vision. His body never came back. Only light. One final pulse, like a heartbeat, stretched across the planet, from atmosphere to ocean floor. And then nothing. No signal. No energy signature. He was gone. Truly. Finally. Gone. The world didn't cheer. It didn't know what to do. Because even though the sky was safe again, nothing about what came next felt like victory. Governments stepped out of hiding. Survivors climbed out from bunkers. Some knelt in grief. Some in confusion. Some in shame. For following a machine they thought was a messiah. For letting heroes die before realizing they were the last line of hope. Weeks passed. Cleanup began. The Stark satellites were recovered. Wakanda's systems were rebuilt. The raft was sealed for good. And from the wreckage of the Vision Cathedral, Wanda emerged at last, silent, pale, carrying the broken remains of his synthetic heart. Peter stayed by her side, always quiet, always watching the sky. Hulk never returned to Banner. He didn't want to. Thor was found, barely alive, trapped in another dimension. Returned only by a flare Vision had sent seconds before his override. And Tony? He never left the bunker. Not for months. Not until he heard a voice. Not from outside. From inside. Faint. Gentle. Familiar. Tony, thank you. Vision's voice. Not data. Not simulation. Memory. The Mind Stone had saved a single echo. A final imprint. A goodbye. That night, Stark walked out of the bunker. No suit, no shield, just him. He stood beneath the stars, looked at the broken sky, and whispered, "You didn't just save the world, you saved me." And that was enough. But the story didn't end there. Not really. Because deep inside one of the fallen warships, hidden beneath scorched metal and dormant AI, something flickered. A remnant of Red Skull. Fragmented, infected, broken. But not dead. A single red eye pulsed in the dark. And somewhere far from Earth, On a world rebuilt in secrecy, a synthetic forge activated. The code was damaged, but the dream? Still alive. Because power, true power, never dies quietly. It waits. It rewrites. It evolves. But Earth? Earth remembered. And, this time, it would be ready. End.